You are going to spend roughly 90,000 hours of your life working. 90,000 hours. That is about 1/3 of every waking moment you will ever have, handed over to a job, a boss, a schedule someone else made for you. Deadlines, meetings, performance reviews, alarm clocks that drag you out of sleep before your body is ready. And here is the thing nobody tells you. For 300,000 years, humans did not do this. Not even close. For almost the entire existence of our species, 97% of it, there were no jobs, no wages, no office, no career ladder, no Monday morning dread. So what did they actually do all day? The answer is going to make you deeply uncomfortable. Because it turns out that the people we call primitive, the ones without technology, without cities, without anything we consider civilization, may have been living in a way that looks a lot less like survival and a lot more like the life most of us secretly want. Let's start with a number. In the 1960s, an anthropologist named Richard Lee went to the Kalahari Desert in southern Africa to study the Kungsan people, one of the last remaining groups still living the way all humans lived before agriculture. He tracked their days. He measured their hours. He counted exactly how much time they spent on what we would call work: hunting, gathering, finding food, keeping the group alive. The number he came back with stunned the academic world: 15 to 20 hours per week. That's it. That was the entire work week of a prehistoric human. 3 hours a day, roughly, maybe 4 on a busy day. Even if you add food preparation, tool making, and shelter maintenance on top of that, the total still comes to around 30 hours per week at most. The same study found that the Hadza people of Tanzania, the Martu of Australia, and indigenous groups across completely different continents and environments all showed similar results. 3 hours of actual survival work per day. Then the rest of the day was theirs. The question is, what did they do with it? The morning started differently than yours does. No alarm, no phone, eyes open when the body was ready, which for most of human history meant waking naturally with the light. The first thing that typically happened was not rushing, not checking anything, not preparing for a commute. It was sitting, talking, eating whatever was left from the night before, slowly, with the people around you. Anthropologists who have studied surviving hunter-gatherer communities describe mornings as remarkably unhurried, a kind of communal ease that modern people almost never experience on a weekday. Then came the actual work of the day. And here is where it gets interesting. Hunting was not a daily activity. Studies of hunter-gatherer groups consistently show that successful hunts happened roughly 1 out of every 3 attempts, which means most hunting trips ended without a kill. And the response to a failed hunt was not panic, it was not crisis. It was, okay, we try again tomorrow. The group had enough. Food was shared completely and immediately. Nobody hoarded. Nobody went hungry while others ate well. Gathering plants, roots, berries, and nuts was often more reliable than hunting, and it was done in a way that looks nothing like labor. Groups walked, but walking through a landscape you know deeply, identifying plants, talking to the people beside you, stopping when something interesting appeared, that is not exactly what we picture when we say work. Archaeological evidence from skeletal remains tells a striking story. Hunter-gatherers were tall, well-nourished, and had remarkably healthy teeth. Their bones show significantly less repetitive strain injury than the bones of early farmers. The people doing the harder life were actually physically healthier than the people who came after them. But here is the part of the day that nobody talks about. After the work was done, and remember, that was usually by early afternoon, what happened? They played. Not in a childlike sense. Adults played. They gambled with bones and stones. They competed in physical games. They wrestled. They raced. They practiced throwing spears not because they needed to, but because it was fun, and because being good at it mattered to them. They made things for reasons that had nothing to do with survival. A 40,000-year-old bone flute was found in a cave in Germany. Not a tool, not a weapon, a musical instrument. Someone, 30,000 years before the invention of writing, sat down and carved a flute from a vulture bone because they wanted to make music. 100,000-year-old shell beads have been found in Morocco, carefully drilled, clearly worn as jewelry, for no purpose other than that they looked beautiful. Someone wanted to be beautiful. Someone cared how they looked. The cave paintings at Chauvet in France, some of the most breathtaking art ever created, are 30,000 years old. Painted in near darkness, deep inside a cave, with pigments that took time and skill to prepare. Nobody painted those ceilings because they were bored. They painted them because creating something beautiful mattered to them in exactly the way it matters to us. Ancient humans were artists, musicians, athletes, gamblers, storytellers, decorators. And they had the time to be all of those things. But the part of prehistoric daily life that most surprises researchers is how much time was spent on each other. Not just surviving together, actually being together. Grooming, talking, sitting close, laughing. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer communities consistently note the sheer quantity of social time in a day, hours of it, unhurried, unscheduled, with no purpose other than connection. This was not wasted time. In a world without police, without contracts, without courts, without any of the institutions we use to manage trust and conflict, relationships were the technology. The strength of your connections to the people around you was the thing that kept you safe, fed, protected, and mentally healthy. A person who was good at relationships in prehistoric society had a real, measurable survival advantage, which is why humans evolved to crave connection so intensely. It wasn't a luxury, it was infrastructure. Children in hunter-gatherer societies were never scheduled. They played freely, for hours, every day, with children of multiple ages mixed together, learning by watching, doing, imitating, failing, and trying again. Education existed. It just looked nothing like a classroom. And then something happened that changed everything. About 12,000 years ago, humans figured out farming. And almost immediately, life got harder. This sounds wrong. Agriculture is supposed to be progress, and in many ways it was. It allowed populations to grow, cities to form, civilizations to rise. But for the individual human body and the individual human day, the data is difficult to argue with. Early farmers worked more hours than hunter-gatherers. Their skeletons show far more repetitive strain damage. They were shorter, their teeth were worse, their diets were less varied. And for the first time in human history, some people went hungry while others had plenty. The anthropologist Jared Diamond once called the invention of agriculture the worst mistake in the history of the human race. That is probably too strong, but the point behind it is real. Within a few generations of farming, populations grew so large that there was no going back. Too many mouths to feed any other way. The trap was set, and we walked right into it. And then came jobs, then came schedules, then came the alarm clock and the commute and the 90,000 hours. Here is the thing that stays with me. When researchers show hunter-gatherers images of modern cities, the skyscrapers, the traffic, the offices, the crowds of people all moving in the same direction at the same speed because a clock told them to, the reaction is usually something between confusion and pity. Not envy, pity. And maybe that says something. Not that we should abandon everything and live in the forest. That ship has sailed. There are 8 billion of us now, and the world those 3 hours a day humans lived in is gone. But something else. That the part of you that resists the alarm, that craves unscheduled time, that feels most alive when you are talking to someone you love, or making something, or moving your body through a landscape without a destination. That part of you is not weak or lazy or unproductive. That part of you is 300,000 years old. And for most of human history, that part of you was the whole point.